What's going on, everybody? Today I'm going to bring up an interesting topic that I feel isn't talked about a lot amongst the YouTube sports world, and isn't talked about a lot in general at all. Personally, I'm a huge sports fan, and similar to America's popular vote on which is the best sport, my personal favorite to watch and follow is football. Now, there are many videos and channels out there that are focusing on news and analysis on professional and college football, but for this video, I thought it would be a very intriguing topic to touch up on high school football. Our favorite athletes we admire and follow that are seen on TV competing at the highest level all came from and once played high school football at some point. But for this video, I will be talking specifically about the high school football situation down here in San Diego, California. And before I get hit with comments or reactions saying that I have no credibility on the topic or that I am completely wrong with the content that I'm speaking on, I'll preface my comments by saying that I mean no disrespect and I'm not putting this out there just to stir up conflict with my criticism. The reason I feel the need to do this as a native San Diegan is to try and expose some things I feel that is just the harsh reality and the strong need to change in the city because of how much potential and growth that needs to occur with the football down here. The whole premise of this video will be aimed mostly with how the lifestyle and culture down here in San Diego has softened up the kids and how most of the schools and coaches lack the drive and seriousness as it pertains to football. Not all players, coaches, or schools fit into this category, but most of them do, so let me be very clear about that. This isn't aimed towards the great players or the great coaches that has represented San Diego in an admirable fashion. It's geared towards the teams that don't respect the game how they should and are okay with being mediocre and content with losing. Hope this could be a constructive critiquing lesson for San Diego. Now, on to the video. Alright, I was born and raised in San Diego, and I did in fact grow up and had gone through the whole farming system from youth football to high school in the county. So I am more than qualified to make these points and highlight and be as subjective as I want of how I see things around here concerning football. There's about 1.5 million people in the city as a whole, so there is an abundance of sub-cities and towns scattered across the county. Proportionately, there is at least one youth team per town and about 2 high schools for every town. With those facts being noticed, that means there is a plethora of people here with the opportunity and exposure to the sport in being able to learn, participate in, and engage in at some point in their lives growing up here in the city. California is one of the top 3 states when it comes to producing high school football prospects, but you don't ever hear about San Diego football. I feel it is below average in terms of popularity, interest, and really overall, it is just not a daily part of living here in SD. We have had such a rich history of football athletes produced here such as Junior Seau, rest in peace, Marcus Allen, Terrell Davis, Reggie Bush, Levine Toilolo, Alex Smith, Kenny Stills, Tony Jefferson. Apart from those San Diego legends are a very long list of talented players that have done a great job in putting San Diego on the map when they moved up in their athletic careers in recent memory. Trust me, I know some of them personally and have worked and competed against them in the past while I was in high school. But with such a strong list of guys who ended up making it to the highest level of football, unfortunately, there's a disproportionate amount of players here currently that are out here playing football for the wrong reasons, such as clout, attention, jerseys, females, Instagram likes, all the reasons that don't really matter in the grand scheme of things. The reason why that is so is because of the testament to the culture down here in San Diego. Things here are too easy, too laid back, too lackluster when it comes to football, and that's why the talent skill here isn't that good. It's the distractions that are here in the city like the beaches, zoo, and SeaWorld. San Diego's a tourist town, so it makes sense. So with that being said, respect to the kids out here that are really putting in work, blood, sweat, tears into the game. A very rare trait to see these days amongst the upcoming generation. Most kids here would rather do what regular lame kids would do. I feel as an athlete, the expectation is higher and on a different agenda, and that stands true for most football players that take their craft seriously. Most of these clowns here in high school don't, and are just social media personalities that don't put in extra work on the film, weight room, and field work when no one is watching. That's San Diego in a nutshell, but it's a different story when you talk about the football culture in Texas, Florida, and Georgia. Southern California is arguably the best location in the United States for all sorts of reasons, including non-existent cold weather, low rate of rainfall, no humidity, no snow, and 75 degrees 300 days out of the year. Sounds like paradise people to play football year-round, right? Well, not really. From what I see these days being out on the fields, there are more soccer and lacrosse players than actual football players out here. That is embarrassing. That is disrespectful to football if these soccer geeks are out here on our fields, where the football players are supposed to be training and getting better? That is a direct reflection on how the sport is seen out here. They just don't care to be good or to win or to improve. It's just an afterthought, and I just shake my head because I know and I understand how important football is to most of us out here in this country in terms of what it brings to our communities and cities and what it can do for an individual in terms of where it can bring them in their future. But no, they don't understand that here in San Diego. With all these resources around here along with the perfect weather, you know the kids in Ohio and Michigan would kill to be in these privileged San Diegan shoes during the winter months in which there's a blizzard, but over here it's a nice 70-degree day in early January. Players in other cities and towns that don't have the resources or are affected by their surroundings are at a disadvantage when it comes to the trajectory of performance and their ability. Training programs are extremely important in the development of a football player, and the majority of growth in that time is put into the training in the off-season. A big portion of the off-season that a lot of kids who live in colder conditions miss out on is the winter season. So in essence, out of a 7-month off-season, a large portion of the population in the country in the northern states miss out on about 3 months out of the 7, which deprives them of all the necessary times that are required to grind and train. But in San Diego, they have all the time in the world and the best weather to do so. But that training is neglected and substituted with surfing and just wasting time in general with friends. Needing to grind hard and put in a lot of dedication, discipline, and sacrifice is something that most kids won't do. This perspective I have is through the lens of someone who worked extremely hard and was overlooked growing up, because I personally didn't have the extraordinary ability and talent like some others that were fortunate enough to be given all the ability when they just entered the world. It didn't help that I had to deal with the crappy competition and crappy coaching around here when I was in high school, because it sure didn't help me improve. The main point in mentioning all this is because football requires a high demand of training and elite performance with each position in order to become successful as a player and to show it on the field. When I go on and on about how San Diego as a whole county does not hold up their end and how good of players they produce, it is because of the culture and infrastructure the city presents to the kids growing up that play the sport, and it equals mediocrity considering the reasons I listed above and what kids would rather do instead of being out on the fields and improving their game. I don't know about you guys, but I've noticed that there's a very distinct difference in the type of player and where they hail from. You can tell that monsters that are from Texas and Alabama. People in these regions are bred differently, and it's apparent not only in their ability in game, but in their overall physical appearance. You take a look at these dogs from these real football states, and then you take some little kids out of here, and we look like some little kids getting ready for recess or something. Those real dudes from other parts of the country simply do these things to get to how they are. And it's along the same lines as all the points I've been preaching throughout the whole video. They lift, run, train, study, practice, and most importantly, they care about their sport in order to give the best out of them every time they step in between the lines. That doesn't happen out here. And I know, you can throw the Oceanside, Torrey Pines, and Carlsbad all at me and say that they can match up against any other school in the US. Yeah, well, that's great and all, but in most places with a population as widespread and as dense as San Diego is, it's really a disgrace to have only 8 legitimate schools representing the county and have the rest of the teams looking like the little giants. That's the cold hard truth, and to anyone that has anything to say against that, go to Allen, Texas and come back and tell me I'm wrong. Us as San Diegans take all this for granted. All this opportunity, all this good perks to be able to be good at football. We just don't care. If we didn't have so many advantages here, I wouldn't have such a high standard and expectation for the football down here. It really makes a big difference in performance and opportunity when it comes to all the factors that make San Diego such a great spot to breed good football. I feel the reason why people don't understand this, or why they might not see what I'm saying, is because they've never been away from their area in which they spend most of the time in, whether it's their hometown or their area of upbringing. In other words, kids down here don't realize how good they have it, so they get complacent with all these perks that they have. Again, this video is not to bash the county or the kids. I'd like to reiterate that there are many great ballers that came out of here. But with that being said, if the national spotlight continues to shine on Florida, Texas, Georgia, and PA, then that means San Diego isn't up to par with the best of the best, like how they claim they are down here. Even in our own state, California, we aren't even considered or mentioned or talked about for putting out kids. They'll mention Los Angeles, Orange County, and even the Inland Empire before they mention San Diego. That is disrespectful in my eyes. I don't know about you guys, but I'm sure some of y'all don't care about that I really hope that the premier talent at these better schools down here continue to put out kids at these powerhouses, which will hopefully end up picking up the slack for all those other clowns in these other regions and high schools in the county. East County, South Bay, San Diego, and the private school sector, minus Helix, Cathedral, and Saints. Those are the schools that are really keeping San Diego on the map. All the rest of those schools are whack. They know who they are. But yeah, basically, step it up, San Diego. Prove me otherwise, because the other kids in these other states will continue to grow, making us little San Diego high school players look like little